Chapter 1. Hey there, sleepyheads! Tonight, we take a moonlit stumble backward in time, all the way to ancient Rome, where the crowd roars, sand clings to sweat-slick skin, and the metallic scent of blood hangs like perfume in the summer heat. You stand barefoot on the cobbled auction block, squinting up at the sun, wrists raw from iron chains. Somewhere nearby, a fat Roman nobleman is placing a bid on you, like you're a loaf of bread. Congratulations, you've just been purchased as gladiator stock, and yeah, you probably won't survive this. Now, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I love knowing who's out there as we drift into the past together. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're not a warrior. You're not some brave Roman soldier who fell from grace, or a hero snatched from the battlefield. No, you're just unlucky. Maybe you owed debts. Maybe you were captured in some skirmish across the Rhine, or maybe you mouthed off to the wrong senator. Doesn't really matter now. What matters is that a short man in a red toga just clapped his hands, and a pair of guards are hauling you off, toward a cart that smells of old blood and stale olive oil. Welcome to day one of your life as a gladiator, or as they'd call you in Latin, damnatus ad ludum, condemned to the games. The journey to the training school, ludus, takes hours. You rattle along rutted Roman roads, packed in a wooden cage with 5 other poor souls. One is missing half an ear. One's crying quietly. One looks far too calm. You try not to meet his eyes. Outside, the world rolls past like a fever dream. Vineyards, colonnades, children playing knucklebones in the dust. Somewhere in that world, normal people go about their lives, blissfully unaware of the smell rising from your cart. Eventually you arrive. The gates of the ludus clang open with a groan, revealing high stone walls and a courtyard filled with shouting men and the rhythmic thwack of wooden swords smashing against straw dummies. It's not elegant. It's not noble. It's a prison yard gym with better branding. A grizzled man with a broken nose and forearms like marble steps forward. Stripped, he growls in Latin. You don't understand every word, but the tone is unmistakable. You hesitate. He doesn't. One of the guards slams a stick into your side, and you stumble. Someone grabs your tunic, yanks it down. The others follow. In less than a minute, you're standing naked in the courtyard, goosebumps rising under a hot sun, as the veteran walks the line, inspecting you like livestock. He prods your ribs, mutters something about your teeth. New batch, he calls. Put him in cell 3. Give the tall one to Vigilus. He's gonna love breaking that one. Guess which one's the tall one? Yep, you. They herd you into a cell with straw mats, a cracked water basin, and the stale stink of old sweat and fear. No windows, just a slit in the wall that lets in a beam of light, and dust motes that shimmer like ghosts. You've been in the ludus for less than an hour, and already you understand something very clearly. You are not here to learn. You are here to be shaped, bent, hardened, and if you break along the way, well, there's always tomorrow's shipment of fresh meat. Let's pause and stretch the imagination for a second. Modern gym memberships come with smoothies, playlists, and annoying influencers doing squats for likes. Gladiator school? Slightly different vibe. The lanista or owner treats his men like investments. Each of you has a ledger sheet tracking food, gear, injury costs. You are a walking balance between expense and entertainment value. And here's a fun little fringe detail. Gladiators weren't just numbered. Many were given absurd nicknames like Aquila, Eagle, Sagittarius, Archer, or, my personal favorite, Felix, Latin for lucky. He died in his second fight. Irony wasn't lost on the Romans. Anyway, your first night is mostly confusion and murmurs in languages you don't speak. The man in the corner with a twisted knee mumbles to himself in Greek. A blonde-haired Gaul scratches lines into the dirt, counting something. You lie on your back and stare at the cracked ceiling, too exhausted to cry, too wired to sleep. You drift off eventually, not into dreams, but into cold, dreamless nothing. And morning hits like a trident to the face. Whistles blare, chains rattle. Someone shouts, Surgate, G-E-T-U-P. There's no gentle wake-up here. You scramble up, heart pounding, as the guards toss stale bread and salted beans into a communal pot. You eat with your fingers, scooping the mush as fast as you can. Someone elbows you. You elbow back. Small victories. Then it's time for inspection. They line you up in the sun again. This time, a physician walks the row, medicus, in Roman terms. His breath smells like vinegar and old garlic. He checks your joints, your eyes, your teeth. If you're too weak, back to the auction. If you're just barely passable, welcome aboard. The lucky few, the best of the worst, get shackled and led to the palestra, the open-air training ground. This is where you'll learn to fight, sort of. Don't imagine fancy sword play or dramatic slow-mo lunges. Imagine endless foot drills. Imagine marching in circles with a 10-pound wooden sword, rudis, and a wicker shield that leaves splinters in your palms. Imagine swinging that thing until your shoulder screams. Now, imagine doing it all again, blindfolded. Historians still argue whether gladiator schools focused more on brute repetition or tactical finesse. But either way, it sucked. Your doctor, your trainer, isn't interested in finesse today. He barks commands, hits your calves with a rod when your stance is off. You try to copy the older men. One of them stares ahead with vacant eyes and never flinches. You envy that numbness. And the heat. Oh, the heat. You feel your tunic stick to your back like a second skin. You stop sweating at some point. That's not a good sign, by the way. Your hands blister, your legs shake. You give anything for shade, or water, or death. Around you, the ludus hums like a brutal hive. There's always someone shouting, bleeding, vomiting. A guard lass as one man collapses. A woman, maybe a healer, or maybe just someone's wife, pours water over a fallen fighter's head. They don't stop the drills. You never stop the drills. On nightfall, you're shaking so badly you drop your bowl of beans. No one offers help. You don't ask. You just crawl back to your straw mat, curl around your churning stomach, and whisper to yourself in your own language, words that mean stay alive. You don't sleep. Instead, you lie there and listen to the groans, the prayers, the occasional scream from the medical room. You learn things quickly in this place. You learn who snores, who cries, who grinds their teeth when they dream of blood. But mostly you learn this: you're not the main character here. You're a background player in someone else's epic. Your job is to die interestingly. If you're lucky, maybe not yet. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe after you learn how to use that sword. Maybe after someone decides you're worth betting on. For now, you're just raw meat in the grinder, another condensed soul in the gladiator machine, wondering if this hell has a back door. Spoiler, it doesn't. But you're not dead yet. And that's something. Chapter 2. You wake up to shouting again. No gentle dawn, no bird song. Just the familiar rasp of iron on iron and the voice of a drill master who has long since lost his sense of mercy. It's your second full day in the ludus, and your body already feels like it's been hit by a cart full of bricks. You're sore in places you didn't know you had muscles. Your back, your legs, your fingers, even your scalp aches. You shuffle into the courtyard where the others are already forming ranks. Some of them move with practiced ease. You, however, move like an overturned tortoise. The man next to you spits on the ground and smirks. His name is Scavis, and he's been here long enough to know not to waste energy on small talk. Today begins like yesterday, only worse. The doctor barks commands, faster this time. He's seen what you can do, or rather, what you can't, and now he's decided to break you down like a chipped clay pot. You are nothing. You will become something only when he decides you're worth the effort. The drills start early. You hold your wooden sword and shield and begin the pugilatus, the striking drills, while standing on a packed dirt ring under the sun that's already baking your skull. It's not even breakfast yet, and sweat is already staining your eyes. One of the guards yells, "Wrecked, wrecked, strike properly." You try, you miss. The dummy stands unbothered, a straw-stuffed torso propped on a post, looking smugly invincible. You swing again, harder. This time your sword connects, but your stance is wrong, and the impact throws your weight off. You stumble back, earning a solid whack to the calf from the doctor's cane. Lesson learned: pain is immediate. Feedback is constant, and you are a long way from ever stepping into an actual arena. Gladiator training isn't glamorous. It's humiliating. They drill every motion into your bones, every lunge, every dodge, every turn. You learn to fight by repeating the same basic movements 1,000 times. And when you're done, you do it again, and again, and again. If you're lucky, you'll get to practice with a partner. If you're unlucky, your partner is the enormous Thracian with the broken nose and nothing to lose. Speaking of partners, today's your turn to spar. The doctor gestures for you to step into the ring. Across from you stands another new recruit. He's skinnier than you, with wild eyes and twitching hands. You both grip your wooden swords like you're holding dead rats. He lunges first. You panic. Raise your shield just in time to catch the blow, and your arm vibrates with the impact. You counter with a swing of your own, sloppy and wide. He ducks, comes in again, this time aiming low. You barely dodge, and then the yelling starts, not from your doctor, but from the crowd. That's right. There's a crowd now, a dozen or so men, some guards, some older gladiators leaning against the outer wall, watching the match like it's an afternoon pastime. They're laughing. You're not sure if they're laughing at you or your opponent. Probably both. Either way, it's not encouraging. You manage to land a hit, more by accident than skill. Your sword glances off his shoulder, but you stumble in the process and fall flat on your back. The older fighters cheer ironically. Someone throws a rotten fig into the ring. You're pulled up by the doctor, who mutters something about wet bread being more threatening than you. The next round begins. You get better slightly. Your body remembers little things. How to shift your weight. How to aim just past the opponent's shoulder, not at it. You don't win, but you survive the sparring. And that, in this place, is the highest praise. At midday, you collapse on a bench with a bowl of lentil mash and barley. The food is hot, bland, and weirdly comforting. It fills your belly with slow-burning fuel, not tasty, but dense. That's the goal. Fun fact, historians have studied gladiator bones, and guess what? Most of them were overweight by modern fitness standards. Not muscle-bound titans like in movies, but thick and stocky. That extra fat was actually protective, like a biological cushion to prevent deep cuts from becoming fatal. And yes, they call them portieri, barley men, because of the sheer volume of grain in their diet. And now you're one of them, a living sack of lentils in pain. After lunch, it's time for more specialized training. Today, shield work. Your shield is heady. Too heady, it's made of thick wood, layered with leather and rimmed with bronze. It smells like old sweat and dead goat. You hold it in front of you, arm trembling. The doctor walks past, shoving at each man's shield to test their stance. He slams yours. You stumble again. He sneers. He tells you to go to the corner, yes, like a naughty schoolchild, and hold your shield in position for 1 full hour, without dropping it. No moving, no sitting. Just you, the shield, and your rapidly cramping shoulder. About 30 minutes in, your arm goes numb. About 40 minutes in, you start to hallucinate a little. You think you see a dog wearing a laurel crown. That's when the doctor finally lets you put the shield down. You collapse like a wet tunic. A few of the older gladiators pass by. One of them, Paul, scared, missing a few fingers, nods at you. You'll live, he mutters. High praise indeed. And here's a little curiosity. Roman gladiator schools weren't all about brute force. Some Ludi incorporated rudimentary psychology, using rituals and rhythms to embed obedience. For example, many scholars believe the use of repetitive Latin chants wasn't just for cadence, it was a kind of brainwashing, a militarized mantra meant to override fear. Fear, of course, is your new shadow. Every day ends with it. The sun sinks. You peel off your tunic, sore and soaked. The linen clings to your skin like a wet rag, and when you finally manage to wring it out, the water that dribbles down is more sweat than anything else. You sit on the edge of your straw mat, legs shaking, and stare at your blistered palms. The torchlight flickers outside your cell. Somewhere down the corridor, someone is groaning, either from pain, fever, or one of those dreams the veterans don't talk about. You still don't understand every word that's thrown around, but the tone of the place is universal. Do what you're told, don't draw attention. And if you want to live another week, learn fast. A shuffle of footsteps outside your door breaks your daze. It's Vitulus. You've heard his name before, mostly in hushed whispers. He's not your doctor, not technically. He's more like an enforcer. The kind of man who oversees discipline when a fighter gets too proud, too mouthy, or too soft. He's built like a marble statue left out in a thunderstorm, chipped, scared, but impossibly solid. He looks you over and says, "You're mine now. Tomorrow you train with me." That's it. No welcome speech, no handshake, just a verdict. You nod, or maybe you flinch. Hard to tell. When he leaves, your cellmates look at you differently. One of them chuckles, dryly, "Try not to die." He hates crying. No one sleeps much that night. At dawn, you find yourself face to face with Vitulus in the palastra. He doesn't bark orders. He doesn't shout. He just watches as you pick up your rudis, that wooden training sword that somehow still feels heavier than your future. He says, "Show me what you know." So you swing. Poorly. He lets it happen for a few moments, then steps in close. Too close, he slaps your sword aside with his hand, just his hand, and it clatters to the ground. You freeze. He stares into your eyes. No one fears a man who swings like he's asking permission. He picks up your sword, demonstrates a movement, slow, fluid, deadly. It's like watching a storm uncoil in slow motion. No wasted effort, no hesitation. He tosses the rudest back to you. Again. You swing, he corrects. You swing again. He corrects again, for hours. Not a word of praise, not a word of encouragement. But at the end, as your arms give out and you crumple to your knees, he grunts, "You might not die tomorrow." You file that under vitally optimistic gladiator encouragement. The rest of the week is a blur. Sword work, endurance runs, carrying sandbags through water, learning to fall without breaking something vital, learning how to angle your shield to deflect, not block, blades. They drill you on footwork, balance, and control until the soles of your feet blister and bleed. You also start learning Roman crowd psychology, even if no one names it that. The doctor tells you where to look, up, always up, to the stands, even if you're scared, especially when you're scared. You learn how to take a hit and make it look dramatic, how to fall in a way that makes people gasp. Because here's the ugly truth no one says out loud. Your real job isn't to win. It's to entertain. You're not a soldier. You're not a hero. You're a performance piece with blood. Historians still argue whether all this theatricality was emphasized from the start or something that evolved later. Some say it was baked into gladiator schools from day one. Others think it developed over time, as crowd tastes became more refined or more deranged. Either way, you're learning to perform pain. And when you finally get a real blade, a dull, dented gladius used only for practice, you're ready enough not to stab yourself immediately. That's progress. Training matches get longer, harder. Your stamina improves slightly. You land a clean hit on Scavis during sparring, and he doesn't kill you for it. He even mutters something that might have been not bad. Or maybe he sneezes. On the 7th night, you receive your first official status, hero, a rookie. It's not much, but it means you're now part of the stable. You'll be assigned to fighting styles soon, maybe even a weapon specialty. And one day soon, you'll fight for real. Before bed, you overhear two guards betting on your odds in the arena. One says, "He's too soft, dead in his first match." The other shrugs, "Maybe," but he doesn't flinch anymore. You lie awake longer than usual that night, staring at the ceiling crack above your mat. You haven't flinched in 3 days. You haven't cried in 5. You still don't know half the men in your cell by name, but you've learned how to move like one of them, how to eat fast, speak little, and hide pain. One of the older fighters, you think his name is Fulgur, leans over and hands you something. Tiny cloth pouch, frayed at the edges. Inside is a small pebble carved with a crude symbol, an eye, surrounded by jagged lines. For luck, he mutters. You try to hand it back, but he waves you off. You'll need it. You tuck it under your mat. That night, your dreams are strange. Less screaming, more images. A red arena, sand-stained dark, a flash of silver. And a thunder of voices you somehow understand, even though no one speaks your language. You wake up with your heart pounding. Tomorrow, Vitulus says, you meet the Armatura Master, the man who decides what kind of fighter you'll be. What kind of killer? Chapter 3. The 3rd week arrives not with a scream but a silence, the kind that sits heavy in the air, like the world is holding its breath before something breaks. You shuffle into the training yard at dawn. Your body moves on autopilot now, steps measured, posture rigid, sword arm slightly higher than your shield. It's instinctive. Not elegant, but functional. And today, that counts for something. Because today is Armatura Day. The courtyard is quieter than usual. No sparring, no shouting. Just rows of rookies standing shoulder to shoulder as the Lanista's personal advisor. An old, shriveled man with a curved back and too many rings wanders the line, sizing each of you up like a potter judging misshapen clay. He mutters as he walks. Gaul, German, Thracian, not a Murmillo, too narrow in the chest. This one? Retiarius, or clown. He stops in front of you, eyes your shoulders, your legs, makes a disgusted sound like he's tasted something sour. Maybe a secutor, maybe. He jots something on his wax tablet. Try not to fall over. That's it. That's your gladiator casting call. No speeches. No slow-motion weapon-choosing montage. Just one man deciding what archetype of death best suits your body type. That afternoon, they give you your practice kit. Helmet, visor, a heavier shield, A dull gladius that still feels like it wants blood. You've been sorted into the secutor class. A chaser. A pursuer. Your job is to hunt down the enemy and give the crowd a show. And your enemy? Often a retiarius. You meet your first one the next day. He's tall, wiry, wears no helmet, wields a trident and a net. His armor is minimal, just a shoulder guard and a belt. He looks like a fisherman who wandered into the wrong part of town. You two circle each other under the eye of a trainer. There's no real fight, just a test. He casts the net. You try to knock it aside. He thrusts the trident. You block and counter. You're slow, clumsy. He dances around you like a leaf in wind. And then he grins. Not mockery, not kindness either. Just acknowledgement. You're both learning, both surviving. For now. The next few days are full of drills specific to your class. You practice forward lunges, shield bashes, blindside attacks. You're taught to pace your breath inside the stifling dome of your helmet, a heady, full-faced contraption with tiny vision slits and no ear holes. You sweat so much inside it that your voice comes out in rasps. It's hell, but it's organized hell. In a strange way, it starts to feel like rhythm. Wake, drill, eat, drill, rest, spar, eat again, try to sleep, repeat. The chaos fades slightly when you know what comes next. You start noticing other things too. The hierarchy among the fighters, the top dogs, the veterans with scarred faces and long winning streaks. They get better food, softer mats, even the occasional visit from admirers, yes, actual groupies. People from town who come to ogle the champions through the bars and leave tokens, scraps of poetry, perfumed soap, cloth, carved dice with their initials. Then there are the middlings, fighters with a few matches under their belts. Survivors, respected, but not yet legends. Most don't talk much. Their eyes stay low, locked in the future, always watching for their next fight. And then there's you, still at the bottom, still scraping by, still wondering if you'll live long enough to get a real nickname. It's around this time you realize you're not just training, you're auditioning. Because there's only so much armor, only so many weapons, only so many slots in the next games. And if you don't stand out, you'll be passed over. Or worse, sent out early to fill space on a program no one cares about. A warm-up act, a dead body before lunch. So you start watching the veterans, their footwork, their tells, the way they never waste emotion. You mimic them when no one's looking. You also start watching the staff, the guards, the cooks, even the medici, the healers who stitch the broken back together. You learn who talks too much, who drinks before duty, who leaves the gate unlocked during deliveries. You're not planning to escape. Not yet, but you're building the map in your head, just in case. One night, your cellmate Fulger, the one who gave you the luck charm, leans over and says, "You watch too much. That's good. Most of the dead don't watch at all." He doesn't say anything else. He just rolls over and falls asleep, like a man who's accepted death but still negotiates with it every morning. And here's the thing you begin to understand, truly understand. The people around you, they're not heroes. They're not monsters either. They're survivors, thieves, rebels, cowards, fighters, all of them pressed into this meat grinder for different reasons. You sleep near a Carthaginian war prisoner who won't speak Latin, across from a Gaul who won his freedom once and came back for the money. There's a Judean who prays every night without fail, and a Roman citizen who got caught cheating in a chariot race and sentenced to 2 games and done. He's made it through one. Barely. The camaraderie is strange, uneven. You don't trust anyone completely, but you nod now, share space, sometimes even a joke. You're not friends, but you're less alone. You also learn to deal with the guards. Some are cruel for fun. Some are cruel out of boredom. But a few, just a few, treat the fighters like people. One of them gives you an extra cup of water on a scorching afternoon. Doesn't say a word, just hands it over and walks away. You remember that kindness more clearly than any blow you've taken. And there are blows, lots of them. You get slammed to the ground during a mock bout, fracture a rib. They tape you up and send you back in. The Medici dab your bruises with vinegar-soaked rags and mutter about maybe needing to drain that later. You don't ask what that is, you just thank them. One of them, an old Syrian man with steady hands, shows you a trick for calming your breath before a match. Press your thumb against your chest bone. Feel your own pulse. Count to 5. It works. A little. He also tells you a secret. Some of the best gladiators faked injuries to avoid matches. Not often, he whispers, or they stop believing you. But once, twice, it buys time. Sometimes that's all you need. You wonder if you'll ever be brave enough to try it. You also learn about death. Not just the flashy kind in the arena, the slow, quiet kind. Infections, fevers, accidents in the training yard. One man dies in his sleep. No one cries. He's dragged out at dawn, and his mat is replaced by evening. You take his space, just a little closer to the window now. You keep the pebble under your mat, and you count the days. Then one morning, the Lenist appears in the courtyard. That never happens. He steps out in his fine robes, flanked by 2 assistants, and announces the match list for the upcoming games. Names are called. A cheer here, a groan there, you hold your breath, then your name. You're in, paired with a Retiarius, your net-wielding rival. Exhibition match, not guaranteed to the death, not guaranteed anyway. The date, 10 days from now. You nod, and you try not to show it, but deep inside your gut, something stirs. Not fear, not pride. Resolve. You have 10 days to survive, 10 days to prepare, 10 days to become something other than dead weight. This is what you've been training for. And if you're lucky, this won't be your last chapter. Chapter 4. The moment your name was called, something inside you shifted. It wasn't relief. It definitely wasn't excitement. It was more like gravity, like a weight settling behind your ribs, the kind of pressure that tells you there's no turning back now. You're fighting in 10 days. 10 days to make your bones unbreakable. 10 days to turn bruises into armor. 10 days to convince the gods, or at least the crowd, not to pull you under. Back in your cell, the others give you the look. Not pity, not jealousy, just a quiet, knowing stare. The look gladiators give to someone who's been called forward while they stay behind, for now. Fulgur claps your shoulder once, then hands you the better half of his bread. That's as close to good luck as it gets in this place. So begins the final stretch. From the moment the sun breaks over the courtyard, the world turns sharper. You notice everything now. The way Vitalis watches your stance with a faint twitch in his brow. The way your Retiarius opponent practices his net throws over and over with terrifying grace. The glint of steel in the blacksmith's workshop where they sharpen the gladi for real matches. You train harder than ever, no more general drills. Now it's all about refinement. Your footwork is corrected to the inch. Your shield position is adjusted so precisely it feels like you're learning to walk again. Vitalis makes you repeat one movement, block, parry, thrust, 200 times in a row. You vomit from the heat somewhere around 150. He gives you water, weights, then makes you finish the rest. The next day, he makes you do it blindfolded. Why? Because in the arena, sand gets in your eyes. Blood runs down your face. And sometimes, the sun's glare is so fierce it blinds you in the moment before a killing blow. You learn to feel where your opponent is, not just see them. One of the senior fighters, a weathered ex-Murmillo named Cassus, watches you one evening. He doesn't speak at first, just squints like he's reading your soul. Then he says, "You're too tight. You fight like you're afraid of making a mistake." You are. He continues, "The crowd doesn't cheer for perfect form. They cheer for heart. Messy. Wild. Bleeding. That's what they remember." He demonstrates with a move that's probably half illegal and all genius. A shoulder feint that opens into a backhand slash. It's dirty, effective, and dazzling. You practice it when no one's watching. Not everything is training, though. There's the Venatio to watch, the animal fights. You're made to sit through one as mental preparation, though it feels more like a threat. In the arena, a man barely older than you tries to outpace a lion. He doesn't succeed. You don't look away. The crowd, of course, loves it, roaring approval, shouting Latin obscenities. They want blood, and they don't care if it's yours, his, or the animal's. The editor or match sponsor watches from a shaded seat with a girl on each arm and a handful of grapes. You wonder if he'll be the one judging your fight. Then comes the armor fitting. No more wooden sword, no more worn-out tunic. You're measured for your gear by a team of armature, smiths who know the difference between a showpiece and a survival tool. They strap a bronze helmet over your head, and suddenly the world is a muffled echo chamber. You can barely breathe. They hand you your real scutum, a massive curved shield nearly as tall as your torso. It's heavy enough that your knees sag, and then the gladius, short, brutal, balanced. It feels wrong in your hand. It should. You've only held toys until now. They etch your name into the shield rim, crude letters scratched with a stylus. Your slave name, nothing fancy, but it's the first thing you've ever owned in this world. Sort of. You spend the evening practicing in full kit. The weight changes everything. You're slower, hotter. Your vision is narrowed to a slit of daylight between metal and misery. You can't hear the calls from the doctor. You can barely hear yourself breathe. And still you train. At night you bathe, if you can call it that. A splash of cold water from a communal basin. Enough to remove the sand caked in your eyebrows. Maybe. You scrub the sweat from your arms and check your calluses like they're lottery tickets. Your sleep comes in jagged fragments now. Dreams of roaring crowds, of nets tightening around your throat, of the smell of iron and the glare of the sun reflecting off polished marble. In one dream, you see yourself victorious. In the next, you're face down in the dust. Historians still argue whether these pre-match rituals were about discipline or desperation. Some say they were carefully designed to instill courage. Others say it was simply the rhythm of animals being fattened for slaughter. Either way, you participate willingly, because what else can you do? 4 days before the match, you're given your opponent's profile. His name is Thalassus, Eritreus, 2 wins, 1 draw, no kills, no losses. He's fast, smart, showy. The crowd likes him. You train harder. 3 days before the match, the Lanista gives a short speech in the courtyard. He reminds you that the editor, the man paying for the games, has final say on who lives or dies, that you must win the crowd to win your life. And remember, he says, dying well is better than surviving as a coward. 2 days before the match, your old blister on your foot tears open again. The medicus wraps it and tells you, try not to limp. They'll notice. You practice walking until the limp disappears. 1 day before the match, you are allowed a final ritual. The Lanista permits it. 1 offering, 1 prayer. Choose wisely. Some men light candles, some carve small statues. 1 draws the symbol of Fortuna on the wall in charcoal. You take out your pebble, the one Folger gave you. You hold it to your lips, whisper no words. You don't know the names of the Roman gods well enough to pray, so you whisper to the wind, to your ancestors, to the dirt. Then you return it under your mat. The night before the match, no one speaks. Everyone in your cell lies awake. You can feel it. The room is too quiet, like everyone's breath is being held in synchrony. You're not even the only one fighting tomorrow. There are 3 others. 1 hasn't eaten all day. You finally doze off just before dawn. When the sun rises, everything moves fast. You're pulled from bed, given a clean tunic, oiled, armored. The gear is tight. Familiar now. The helmet fits better today. The gladius feels heavier, but steadier. You're marched with others through the training yard gates. Into a cart. To the arena. It's not the Colosseum, not yet. This is a smaller amphitheater in a provincial city. Maybe Capua. Maybe somewhere south of Rome. You never did find out. Doesn't matter now. What matters is this. You're here. And the crowd is loud. Louder than you imagined. Roaring like a living thing. The gates open. The sunlight blinds you. And then you're walking onto the sand. Just you. And across the arena, your opponent. Thalassus. He's grinning. Of course he is. The match hasn't started. But the show? It has. Chapter 5. You walk out onto the sand, heart pounding hard enough to rattle your helmet. The arena is smaller than you pictured, but somehow still enormous. The sky overhead is a white-hot slab of heat, the sun perched just above the edge of the stone stands. The light cuts across the sand like a blade, making the world shimmer. You squint through your helmet slit, sweat already stinging your eyes. The crowd sees you, and suddenly, you're not just a nameless fighter anymore, you're their fighter, or at least their entertainment. Some cheer, some boo. One woman throws a small bouquet of herbs down from the stands. Lucky for you, it lands nowhere near your feet. You glimpse the editor seated in a shaded box. He's dressed in purple-trimmed robes, chewing something, flanked by servants waving fans of ostrich feather. His face shows nothing but mild boredom, like he's waiting for the next course of dinner. His thumb, you realize, will decide your life before the sun sets. Across the arena, Thalassus stretches lazily. He looks impossibly comfortable, net in one hand, trident in the other, his armor barely covering anything but his left shoulder. His blonde hair is braided and tied with red string, showmanship. It sways slightly when he bounces on his toes. You realize you're clenching your shield so tightly your fingers have gone numb. Then the trumpets blare. A deep low brah rolling over the crowd like thunder. The gate behind you slams shut. And then, just like that, it's real. The match begins. You don't charge. That would be suicide. You take one measured step forward. Another, your feet sink slightly into the sand. Every grain works against you. That's the point. The arena isn't level. It's sloped to channel blood. The footing is treacherous on purpose. The Lassus circles, keeps his distance. He wants you to tire yourself out. He wants you to overreach so he can tangle your legs in that net. You keep your guard up. No heroics, just patience. You wait. He tests you with a flick of his net. It grazes your shield. No tangle, just a warning. He grins wider. You step right, he mirrors. And then he lunges. Net out, fast. You raise your shield just in time, batting the cords away. But the trident is already coming in low. You twist. It scrapes along your greave with a shriek of metal. You slash sideways. Miss. The crowd roars anyway. They're not watching for skill. They're watching for risk. They want spectacle. So you give it to them. You charge, not recklessly, but fast enough to force his hand. You bash forward with your shield, trying to press into the wall. He dodges, spinning away, but just barely. You swing your gladius in a downward arc and catch the end of his net. A few cords snap. That was close. He knows it too. He backs off, breathing harder now. No more smiles. This is no longer just a dance. It's survival. He throws the net again, wider this time. You duck, roll under, pop up behind your shield, and thrust forward. The gladius connects, scrapes across his chest, shallow but bleeding. First blood. The crowd loves it. Chants erupt. You can't make out the words, but the tone is unmistakable. They want more. You circle again. The Lassus feints left. You don't fall for it. He tries a quick jab with the trident. You sidestep, catch the shaft with your shield, and drag your sword forward into his thigh. He screams, a real one this time. The trident falls. You stand over him, blade raised. He looks up at you, breathing ragged. One hand reaches to his belt, maybe for a dagger, maybe for mercy. You can't tell. Then you hear it, a new sound. The crowd quiets, waiting. And you glance up at the editor. He raises his hand, holds it there, then slowly, deliberately, turns his thumb sideways. Not down, not up, a test. The choice is yours. You could kill him. You could spare him. You stand there for what feels like a lifetime, sword shaking slightly in your hand. The Lassus glares up at you, not pleading, not defiant, just waiting. You step back, lower your sword. The crowd erupts. Some boo, some cheer, a few toss coins. The guards enter. The Lassus is dragged away for treatment. You're led to the center of the arena where the Lenista appears briefly to raise your arm. A signal to the crowd. This man lived. This man fought well. This man gave them something to talk about over supper. You walk off the sand with blood on your blade, but not on your conscience. Not today. Back in the undercroft, the air smells like rust and oil. You remove your helmet with shaking hands. Vigilus is waiting. He doesn't speak, just nods once. That's all you need. You're allowed to rest, for now. But your body hums with pain. Your leg is bruised. Your back is scraped. There's a new welt forming under your ribs. The medicus dabs a salve onto your arm. Not bad, he mutters. Could have killed him, though. You don't reply. Because something else is happening now. For the first time, the others look at you differently. You're no longer just a tyro, no longer just meat in the system. You fought. You made a choice. And you lived. That night you eat hot food, real food, a small cut of meat, a slice of cheese, even wine. It tastes like victory. You also receive something unexpected. A piece of parchment with your new nomina gladiatoria. Your stage name. Ferox. It means fierce. You think it sounds ridiculous. But the men in your cell repeat it once, then nod. It'll do. And here's something else the movies don't show you. Sometimes, the reward for surviving a fight isn't a parade. It's paperwork. A scribe arrives the next morning. Tall, ink-stained fingers, eyes like a bored librarian. He logs your match result. One reports. Audience reaction. Official notes from the editor. Apparently, he liked the way you showed mercy. Said it made you marketable. You're being moved to a higher rank of fighters. More risk, yes. But better food, better armor, and a tiny percentage of the winnings. No, you don't get the money now. you're still a slave. But it's recorded. A promise of coin, someday. Maybe. Historians still debate how often gladiators were actually granted freedom. Some say only a few earned the rudis, a wooden sword symbolizing release. Others argue the rudis was more symbolic than practical, handed out like medals to keep hope alive. Either way, you now understand something essential. You don't fight just for your life, you fight for leverage. That morning, Fulgur grins at you. Ferox, just don't start signing autographs. You grin back, and for once, it feels real. The soreness in your muscles is deep, but so is the pride. You're not just surviving anymore. You're starting to belong. Chapter 6. The days after your first match are a different kind of brutal. Before, you were invisible. Now you're on the list. The Lanista has you back in the yard the next morning. No rest day, no congratulations. He looks at you like a carpenter sizing up a new tool. You survived, yes, but now you've got expectations to meet. No more training like a clueless taro. You're part of the rotation. That means more attention, better instruction, also fewer excuses. And the strange part? It feels good. Even as you stretch aching limbs, even as your bruised leg protests every lunge, and your shield arm feels like lead, you move sharper, more focused. You're starting to think like a gladiator. Still, you're not alone. The rest of the Familia Gladiatoria keeps moving around you. You watch others rise or fall. A veteran named Russo, famous for his twin swords and flair for dramatics, takes a bad blow in his last bout and can't lift his arm anymore. His future's unclear. A younger fighter, barely 15, wins his first match by sheer accident. A wild swing and a lucky stumble that lands him on top of his opponent's chest with a blade between ribs. He hasn't stopped shaking since. And you? You're getting requests. That's new. Not from the crowd yet, though a few fans sent scraps of linen with FEROX scribbled on them, thrown over the wall by servants. No, your requests come from trainers. They want to work with you. Specifically, Vigilus wants you back. But now there's another. Pontius, a lean, calculating man with the precision of a surgeon and the warmth of a brick wall. He offers you something different. You fight smart, he says. You could learn tricks. Tricks. You want to live? Don't fight fair. You say nothing, but you're listening. So for 2 weeks, you split your days between Vigilus and Pontius. One drills power, the other deception. Vigilus teaches you how to stay on your feet when a secutor locks shields with you. Pontius teaches you how to make an opponent overextend, how to twitch your blade just so to make them lunge and overreach. They're shaping you, and you're shaping yourself. But even as your status rises, so does the danger. You're called to fight again. This time, not in a small provincial arena, but in the amphitheater in Capua. It's not Rome, not yet, but it's a big leap. The crowd is larger, louder. The sand stained with the legacy of hundreds before you. And it's there, under the crimson banners and marble statues, that you realize something terrifying. You're not just fighting for survival now. You're fighting for reputation. Because in the arena, reputation matters. The crowd chants louder for those they know. The editor is more likely to grant mercy if the people shout for it. And other gladiators, they watch. They take note. They remember who beat who. Your opponent in Capua is a hoplomachus, a heavily armored fighter with a round shield and a spear. He's older, slower, but precise, experienced. You learn his name is Vetonius, and he's not thrilled to be paired against a rising Tiro with only one fight under his belt. Should have fed you to the animals, he mutters during the weapons check. You nod politely. The match begins under a low gray sky. This time, there's no hesitation, no testing the water. Vetonius comes at you like a thunderclap. His spear jabs forward with horrifying accuracy. You raise your shield and nearly lose your grip from the impact. The next few minutes are a blur. You dodge a sweep, counter with a shield push. He pivots, bashes your helmet. You stagger. The crowd gasps. You're bleeding again, this time from your scalp. Vetonius presses. You backpedal, keep distance, wait for your opening. Pontius's voice echoes in your head, make him miss first. So you fake left, duck, then feint a stumble. Vetonius lunges, and you sided step, drive your blade upward into the gap beneath his arm. It doesn't kill him, but it drops him, and in Capua, that's enough. The crowd howls. You raise your arm, gladius slick with blood. Another match survived. Another piece of your legend built. You are no longer the boy in the cell. You're Ferox, the the one who tricked the Hoplomachus. When you return to the ludus, something strange happens. A boy, barely taller than your chest, greets you at the gate. Not a fighter, a servant. He stammers, holds out a small pouch. Inside, an oil vial, a tiny wooden carving of a lion, and a note that simply reads, "Keep going. You're not done." No name, no signature, just that. Your first fan? You don't know whether to laugh or cry, but you keep it. The next day, a group of new recruits arrives, scared, shivering, thin wrists and haunted eyes. You watch them from the edge of the training yard. They remind you of yourself, not that long ago. You step forward. One drops his wooden sword at the sight of you. Another tries to hide behind a taller cellmate. You don't speak, just correct a stance, tighten a grip. Vigilus watches you from the shade. He says, "You keep that up, you'll be doctor before you're dead." You reply, "I'll aim for not dead first." He smirks. And here's the strange truth settling in your bones. You're starting to feel something other than terror in this life. Not comfort, not yet, but maybe purpose. You train harder. You volunteer to help with weapon maintenance. You ask questions about armor, about match strategy, about crowd psychology. And the doctor notices. One evening, he pulls you aside and says, "You thinking long-term, Thurox?" You shrug. He nods. Good. Most don't. You're beginning to understand that being a gladiator isn't just about fighting. It's about becoming memorable, about building a persona the crowd wants to see return, even if they also want to see you bleed. Historians still argue whether the public's obsession with gladiators was more about admiration or morbid curiosity. Were these men revered heroes, disposable spectacles, or something in between? The answer, you suspect, is yes. Because now, in your third week as a ranked fighter, a Roman merchant asks for your autograph. He hands you a wax tablet. You scrawl F-E-R-O-X in wobbly letters. He bows, thanks you, and walks off with a grin. You stare at your hand for a long time. This life still hurts. Your body is battered. The future uncertain. But today, you were asked for your name. And in this world, that's more valuable than gold. Chapter 7. There are mornings now when you forget you were ever anything else. You wake up before the bell. You stretch the stiffness from your shoulders, rinse your face, wrap your legs, and check the edge of your gladius without being told. The sand in the courtyard is familiar under your feet. The stain of sun on sweat-slick skin. Just part of the rhythm. You are terrifyingly settling in. Of course, nothing stays still for long in a ludus. After your match in Capua, things accelerate. You're now in the posteris rota, the later list. It means you're not just filler anymore, you're considered potential headliner material. Not yet famous, but someone the crowd might start betting on. The downside? The more you're seen, the more people want to see you tested. That test comes in the form of munera sine missione, matches with no mercy. No editor's thumb, no chance for a crowd save. These are duels meant to end with one man on the sand, unmoving. The Lanista doesn't tell you straight away. He just calls you into his office, a high-ceilinged room with oil lamps, a mosaic of Mars on the floor, and scrolls lining the walls like ribs. There's an opportunity, he says, barely looking up from a wax tablet. You wait. A special event, small venue, private munera, wealthy host, wants drama. You stare. Wants drama. You already know what that means. He nods. No missio. No chance of mercy. You don't speak. You just let the silence settle. He leans forward. But listen, you win this, you'll be talked about in Rome. You'll have merchants selling tunics with your name stitched in. They'll paint you on walls. You ask the only thing that matters. Who am I fighting? The Lanista smiles as if you just passed some hidden test. An Esidarius. You blink. That means a chariot fighter. You'd never fought one. You've barely seen one. He adds, you'll be on foot. He'll be mounted. Of course he will. The private amphitheater is an opulent courtyard behind a patrician villa outside Naples. The crowd is rich, drunk, and hungry for something exclusive. They've eaten oysters. They've heard poetry. Now they want someone to bleed for their dessert course. You wait in a marble holding cell while servants light incense. The fighter you're facing is called Medellines, veteran, known for his black-plumed helmet and twisted sense of humor. He rides a white horse named Siller. His armor is polished to a mirror shine, and he enters the arena to the sound of flute music. You get a grunt from the guard and a pat on the shoulder. The sand here is pinkish, dyed for spectacle. You step out to the sound of polite clapping. Metalinus wheels the chariot around you like a shark, and you realize immediately, this is no ordinary fight. This is a performance. He's here to entertain as much as kill, but so are you. And if there's one thing you've learned, it's that the arena doesn't reward fear. The trumpet sounds. Metalinus comes at you full gallop, aiming to circle, disorient, and strike with the long-handled spear. You crouch low behind your shield, bracing. The first pass rattles your teeth. The spear glances off your helmet. You stagger, turn, and see him grinning as he pulls the horse into a tight loop. You can't outrun him, but you can bait him. You shift your stance, sloppy, weak, exposed. He bites, charges again. But this time you dive to the side, roll, and slash upward, not at him, but at the wheel. Sparks fly, wood splinters. The wheel catches. The chariot tips. Metalinus crashes to the ground in a storm of limbs and hooves. You're on him in 2 steps. You expect him to be stunned. He isn't. He kicks you square in the gut, scrambles to his feet, and draws a gladius from the chariot mount. Now it's a fair fight. Sort of. You circle. He's fast, even without the horse. He fights with flair, spins, fake-outs, twirls that make the crowd gasp. But you're not here to impress. You're here to survive. You block, parry, duck. And then, you see it. His heel drags for half a second in the sand as he pivots. You lunge. Your gladius drives up under his arm. The same spot you got Vetonius. He gasps, spits blood, falls. The crowd is dead silent, because they remember, no missio. There is no thumb, no judge, just you and him, and the fact that he's still alive. Metalinus locks eyes with you. No words, just a faint nod. You know what he's telling you. Do it. You kneel. Place your hand on his chest. Then drive your blade between ribs, quick and deep. It's done. The silence holds for one long second, then erupts into applause. Coins, wine, flowers. They throw everything. You don't hear it. Your ears are ringing. You're shaking. You kneel for a moment beside his body. Not in reverence, just because your legs won't hold you. The Lanista has you dragged back to the villa's private chamber for cleanup. They give you a hot towel, a gold coin, and a new nickname. Ferox Victor. You're officially undefeated. The word spreads fast. By the time you're back at the Ludus, 2 new fighters request to train with you. One has a chipped tooth and a matching attitude. The other is quiet, precise, deadly. You like him instantly. You train together. You eat together. You watch the newer recruits sweat through their first shield drills, and you offer advice when they'll listen. Fulgur watches you from a distance now. Proud, maybe, or wary. Maybe both. The doctor tells you one morning you're not just a fighter anymore, you're a brand. That makes you laugh. He's not joking. You're told to be painted on a mural in the city market. A crude version of you, probably, but still, it's a step toward immortality. You now receive Venalisium tokens, bets placed on your fights before they're even scheduled. That means the public wants to see you win. It also means your losses will hit harder if they come, which they will, eventually. You're not naive. But for now, you walk the training yard with your head high, and when a Roman boy sneaks in to peek at the gladiators behind the fence, he points at you and whispers, "That one's Ferox. He killed the chariot man." You don't turn around. You don't wave. But deep down, you smile, just a little. Chapter 8. You've been lucky. You know it. 3 fights, 3 wins, a crowd that shouts your name like they know you, a reputation beginning to wrap itself around you like a cloak. Ferox the victor. The crowd wants more, the Lanista wants more, and luck? Well, luck runs out. You're summoned to the Lanista's office again. By now, you know what that means. Another fight, another show, but this time, something's different. He's quiet, more serious than usual, no promises of fame or fan letters. Instead, he slides a wax tablet across the table. You glance down. 2 words. Amphitheatrum Palladium. The Colosseum. You blink. You ask. As what? A warm-up act? He doesn't smile. You're scheduled for the Dies Natalis, the Emperor's birthday games. You swallow. You've heard stories of what happens there. It's not a provincial crowd anymore. This is Rome. Senators, nobles, poets, generals, philosophers. The Emperor himself might be watching, and they've seen everything. Blood doesn't shock them. Skill doesn't impress them unless it's flamboyant. Even death isn't enough unless it's stylish. You don't sleep that night. Your cell feels smaller than ever. The walls close in. Folger sits with you in silence. Finally, he says, Rome wants drama. Don't give them what they want. Give them something they can't forget. You ask him what he means. He just pats your shoulder. You'll see. When the day arrives, the journey begins with a cart. You travel with a small group, fighters, guards, handlers, and 2 newly arrived beasts in cages you'd rather not look at too closely. The road to Rome is long, dusty, and lined with faces. Children wave. Old men make the sign against evil. A few people shout your name. By the time the Colosseum looms into view, tall, monstrous, humming with the movement of thousands, you feel smaller than ever. This is no arena. This is a monster that eats people alive. The underbelly is worse than you imagined. A labyrinth of tunnels, cages, chains. You pass lions, bears, even crocodiles, all crated and sedated for now. You smell hay, sweat, blood, old oil, and something worse, fear. The editor for the games is a man named Publius Scaevola. He's powerful, rich, bored. He wants pairings with emotional impact. That means stories. That means spectacle. You're not just fighting someone. You're fighting a narrative. Your opponent is named Calamus, a Dimicharis, dual swords, no shield, agile, vicious, known for slicing opponents into ribbons while dancing around them like a flame. You hate how handsome he is. The crowd loves him. He's got more fan paintings than the Emperor's nephew. But here's the twist. They're painting you together, opposing forces, the brute and the blade. The Doctor gives you a choice, fight like a soldier or perform like a legend. You choose both. You're led to the Carceres, the iron-barred gates beneath the arena. The roar above you is deafening. You grip your gladius so tight your knuckles ache. The shield feels heavier than ever. A drop of sweat slides down your temple. Or is it blood from the scratch under your helmet? Too late to check. The gate opens. Blinding sunlight, sand, noise. You step out. Rome sees you. The Colosseum breathes. Across the sand, Calamus twirls both swords in a showy flourish. He's already posing for the marble sculptors. You don't flinch. The trumpet sounds. He moves first. A flash of silver, a blur of movement. His blades whisper through the air, fast, playful. He's not trying to kill you yet. He's trying to humiliate you, to make you swing wide, to tire. You don't bite. You plant your shield. Wait. He circles, taunts. He dances close, too close, and you bash forward with your shield, hard. He reels back, surprised. The crowd gasps. You press forward, strike with the gladius. He dodges, barely. Your blade kisses the leather of his tunic, not blood, but close. He stops smiling. Now it's real. Calamus switches tactics. Less dancing, more slicing. One blade high, the other low. You duck, parry, pivot. He catches your thigh, shallow cut. You catch his forearm, deeper. Blood hits the sand. The crowd rises. You feel it, the current of violence shifting. You're not just surviving anymore. You're contending. The rhythm builds. Clash, spin, block, counter. You begin to anticipate him. His patterns. The little pause in his footwork before he thinks left. The way his left wrist twitches before a downward slash. You use it. He lunges. You sidestep. He spins. You bash his knee with the rim of your shield. He stumbles. You raise your blade, but stop. He's on one knee. His eyes meet yours. There's something in them, not fear. Respect. He nods once. A silent conversation. You lower your blade. Turn to the crowd. Raise your arms. They erupt. Chants of ferox, ferox, ferox roll across the Colosseum like thunder. The editor stands, raises his hand, then slowly gives the thumbs up. Missio granted. Both of you live, but there's no doubt. You won, not just the fight. The moment. That's what Rome wanted. You return to the Undercroft with Calamus beside you. He grins through the blood on his face. Well fought, shield boy. You nod, you too, dancer. The respect is real. So is the exhaustion. That night you're allowed to walk the corridors behind the stands. People cheer from the benches. Children point. You see a painting being sketched on the plaster wall outside the Colosseum gates. Two silhouettes. One holding twin swords, the other a massive shield. You're in the story now, and you realize something chilling. You're not lucky. You're good. And that means they'll keep sending you back in. Because now, the crowd expects you to survive, and that's the most dangerous place a gladiator can be. Chapter 9. You awaken the next morning to the cold bite of dawn slipping through the cracks in your cell walls beneath the Colosseum. The excitement of yesterday's victory is already a distant echo, replaced by a pressing weight. Because here, in the shadows of empire, survival is never guaranteed, and fame is just another kind of gamble. The arena's dust still clings to your skin, mixing with sweat and old blood, a sticky reminder that yesterday's triumph could evaporate at the first slip. You push yourself up and stretch out the knots in your muscles, hearing the muted sounds of other fighters waking. Some curse softly, others practice silent breathing exercises. You try not to think about what's coming next. Your mind drifts back to the stories whispered among gladiators, especially about the Venators, the hunters. These fighters specialize not in combat against each other, but against beasts. The lions, bears, and even crocodiles that the crowd craves to see torn apart in savage spectacle. It sounds insane. You'd never imagine facing such predators yourself, but the Lannis's tone was grave when he mentioned your next assignment, a venatio, a staged beast hunt in the Colosseum, but real all the same. No training swords or shields, just a spear and your wits against a wild animal starved for blood and fury. You swallow hard. Historians still argue whether the Romans truly saw these hunts as entertainment or as ritual purification, something meant to show Rome's dominion over nature and the chaos beyond civilization's borders. Either way, the beast is no joke. You're briefed on your opponent, a massive male lion captured from North Africa called Leo Magnus. Its golden mane is as thick as the shields you carried, and its eyes are pools of liquid amber, cold and calculating. The beast is muzzled for transport, but once in the arena, it will be free. You train with the spear, practicing thrusts and jabs, but the weapons feel pale compared to what you imagine facing. There's a certain hopelessness in training for a fight that's as much about luck as skill. The day of the venatio arrives with a sky so blue it feels unreal. The Colosseum is packed beyond capacity, the air thick with anticipation and the smell of roasted chestnuts from street vendors outside. Senators and citizens alike chatter excitedly, eager to see a man pit his life against the king of beasts. You stand behind the iron gate, gripping your spear tightly. The gate creaks open, and you step onto the sand, heart pounding. The crowd hushes. A low rumble grows from the far side, and then it appears. Leo Magnus strides in, massive paws pounding the earth, muscles rippling under tawny fur. The beast roars, a sound that shakes you to your core. Your spear feels small in your hands. You circle, trying to remember everything you've been taught about lion behavior. They're ambush predators, fast but not built for long chases. You stay on your feet, dodging the first swipe of claws that tear through the air. The beast lunges, teeth bared. You jab the spear under its chin, feeling the sharp sting of its fur as it brushes past. The crowd roars. You retreat, circling, baiting. Then something unexpected happens. The lion hesitates. It studies you. You lock eyes. In that moment, something shifts. You see the intelligence in those amber eyes, not just a wild animal, but a creature as aware as you are of the stakes. The fight becomes a dance, an intense, terrifying exchange of moves and countermoves. You dodge and strike, feeling every muscle screaming, every breath stolen. Your spear catches the beast's shoulder, drawing blood. The crowd is on its feet, but then disaster. The lion springs forward with a ferocious growl, catching you off guard. You're knocked down hard, the wind knocked from your lungs, the spear skitters away. For a terrifying second, you're vulnerable, exposed. But adrenaline kicks in. You roll to the side, scrambling up, grabbing the spear just in time. You jab at the beast's flank. It staggers. You press the attack. Finally, with a well-placed thrust, the lion falls. The arena explodes in cheers, but your legs are trembling. You collapse to your knees, gasping, blood running down your arm from a shallow claw scrape. As you sit there, the weight of the fight settles over you. You realize this was more than survival. This was a show of Rome's power, a brutal reminder that even nature bows to empire's will. Back in the shadows of the Colosseum, the Lanista claps you on the back, murmuring, "You're not just a fighter anymore. You're a story now." And that's when you understand, survival isn't enough. You must be legend. Chapter 10. The days after the beast fight blur together, a haze of muscle ache, bandages, and whispers. You're no longer just a gladiator, you're a spectacle, a headline. The Vanillicium bets rise sharply. Your name is on the lips of every tavern patron and forum orator in the city. Yet with fame comes pressure and danger. Back in the training yard, the mood is different. The new recruits eye you with a mix of awe and resentment. You catch Fulgur watching from the shadows, his face unreadable. The Lanista seems pleased, but there's a tension beneath his approval, a silent reminder that every win only draws tougher challenges. Then the word arrives. You've been assigned a Secutor opponent for your next fight. The Secutor is the classic chaser gladiator, bred and trained specifically to pursue the nimble Retiarius, a fighter armed with a trident and a net. But here, you won't be facing a Retiarius. Your opponent is a Secutor who's also a veteran, known as the Red Hawk for his fierce tactics and blood-red crest. The Secutor fights with a helmet designed to limit peripheral vision, forcing you to outmaneuver him quickly, or die trying. Your training shifts to counter this style. You spend long hours working on agility, footwork, and anticipating his relentless pursuit. The Lanista drills you on patience and timing. The Doctor stresses the importance of mental endurance. The fight is not just physical, it's a game of wills. Close your eyes and imagine a world of sand and blood, of roaring crowds and ancient glory. You wake in darkness. The thick, humid air of your stone barracks clings to your skin. Somewhere in the distance, the creak of wooden wheels, the bark of a dog, and the faint clang of metal against metal remind you that this isn't a dream. This is real. You are a gladiator in Rome. Your body aches from training, your shoulders stiff, legs sore, blisters forming beneath the rough leather of your sandals. You shift beneath the weight of your armor, and a cloud of dust stirs in the narrow shaft of sunlight creeping in through a crack in the stone wall. Today is fight day. You hear footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Fulgur, your Lanista, your trainer, appears in the doorway. He gives no smile, only a small nod. You're ready, he says. You're not sure you are. You eat a small meal, bread, olives, watered-down wine, and prepare your gear. The gladius, short and sharp. The scutum, your heavy shield. The helmet with narrow slits that blur your vision and weigh on your neck. You've trained for months, maybe years, for this, but nothing prepares you for the moment the gates open and the sun pours in like a spotlight. The Colosseum, Rome's mighty amphitheater, looms around you like a stone mountain of noise and judgment. Tens of thousands of eyes fix on you. Their voices blend into a wall of thunder. The sand beneath your feet is dry, raked, stained. Every footfall kicks up puffs of dust. Some of it is not dust. Across from you, standing tall in crimson-plumed armor, is your opponent, the Red Hawk, veteran, killer, crowd favorite. His eyes burn beneath his helmet, locked onto you. The trumpets sound. He doesn't wait. He charges. You barely raise your shield in time. The first blow lands hard. Your arm rattles and your knees buckle slightly. You spin, attempting to reposition, to get room to breathe. The Red Hawk is fast, too fast. His shield slams into your side. You stumble back, foot catching in the uneven sand. Every clash of metal against metal sends sparks into the air. The sound is deafening. The crowd loves the show. They cheer for every strike, every fall, every drop of blood. You're not a man to them. You are entertainment. You remember Fulgur's lessons. The best blow is the one they don't see coming. You feint left. The Red Hawk moves to intercept. You pivot, lightning fast, and thrust your blade toward the small exposed space beneath his helmet. A shallow cut. It's not much, but it earns a gasp from the crowd. And a roar from him. He answers with fury. Blows rain down, deliberate, brutal. Each one pushes you back. Your shield is dented, your sword arm numb, your helmet shifts. You can barely see. This is the truth of gladiator life. Not honor, not glory, but exhaustion, pain. The ever-present scent of blood and sweat, the roar of strangers eager to see you fall. You begin to fade. Time stretches, the crowds roar a distant hum. But then, the Red Hawk overextends, just for a second. And that's all you need. You duck low, drive your blade up beneath his shield. He stumbles, a second strike, and he drops to one knee. The crowd erupts like a volcano. You step forward, blade raised. And then, silence. All eyes shift. To the editor, the man with the final say, a senator perhaps, or even the emperor himself, his hand raises, a flat palm. Mercy. The missio is granted. You lower your weapon. The Red Hawk will live, and so will you. For now. Back in the shadows of the arena, Folger greets you with a clap on the back. His smile is rare, but tonight you see it. You're learning, he says. You nod. You're learning that gladiator life is not just combat. It's performance, precision, knowing when to kill and when not to. But survival? That's something else entirely. Few survive more than a handful of fights. Fewer still gain their freedom. Every day is a test of endurance. Wounds that don't heal, armor that chafes, meals that barely sustain you. Disease spreads easily in the barracks. Infection too. And there's always the next opponent. Bigger, faster, or just luckier. You sleep with one eye open. You dream of peace, of green hills far from Rome, of mornings without the clang of steel. But the arena calls again, and again. Because the truth is, life as a gladiator was never meant to be survived. It was meant to be watched. Now breathe in, slowly. Let the crowd fade. Let the sand settle. Let your sword fall from your hand. You did what many could not. You lived another day. But tomorrow? That's another story. Sleep well, champion of the Colosseum. You've earned your rest. Chapter 11. The applause fades, echoing up into the sunlit sky. But down here, in the shadowed belly of the Colosseum, reality sharpens like a blade. You sit alone, wiping blood from your forearms with a scrap of linen. Another fight survived. Another day stolen from death. But victory is never pure here. It comes laced with doubt, wrapped in exhaustion. Each triumph makes you more visible, more valuable, but also more vulnerable. You are no longer just a gladiator. You're a living symbol of Roman spectacle, a creature forged for the hunger of the crowd. They chant your name, Ferox, as if it's theirs to give, theirs to take. Beneath the adoration, there's a gnawing truth. The next fight could be your last. And then the summons comes. You're called to a chamber you've never entered before, one lined with oil lamps and scrolls, quiet and unnervingly clean. Your Lenissa stands beside a stone table, tapping a calloused finger against a wax tablet, his face unreadable. Ferox, he says slowly, you've earned something rare, a place in the Saturnalia Munera. You freeze. Saturnalia, the festival when Rome turns upside down. Masters serve slaves, gifts replace taxes, and the streets thrum with wine, chaos, and color. For the people, it's joy. For gladiators, it's madness. The games during Saturnalia are different. The rules bend. The crowds expect not just combat, but chaos. Death turned into drama. This time, your opponent isn't another trained gladiator. You're to fight alongside a condemned man, one of the bestiary. Not just criminals. These are prisoners thrown to wild animals, given crude weapons or none at all, expected to die while amusing the crowd. Their fear is part of the entertainment. Your assigned partner is a man named Cato, a captured Gaul with shoulders like a bull and scars like maps of past wars. He speaks little. His eyes are storm gray, deep-set and tired. He was once a rebel, they say, a mountain fighter. Now he's a spectacle. The challenge? A multi-stage event, part hunt, part battle, part cruel puzzle. It will pit you both against wild beasts, natural hazards, and other gladiators. A themed spectacle, they call it. The arena is transformed. Overnight, crews have turned it into a bizarre landscape. Half jungle, half battlefield. Palm fronds rustle in a manufactured breeze. The air stinks of dung and damp soil. Beneath patches of sand lie traps, spikes, pits, even hidden fire. Somewhere in the foliage, wild boars grunt. You hear the distant snarl of a cat. The crowd fills the stands like a rising tide. They are painted and drunk, dressed in festival colors, faces wild with delight. Saturnalia has begun. The gates creak open, and the world explodes. Two boars charge from the underbrush, tusks gleaming. You sidestep, drive your gladius forward. The beast screams, thrashes, then falls. Cato swings a massive wooden club, splintering the skull of the second. From above, nets drop. From behind trees, leopards leap. You twist, slice, duck. The crowd howls. And then, arrows. Sagittari, Roman archers stationed high in hidden towers, rain fire into the arena. Some arrows hit the beasts, others don't. You and Cato dive behind a low stone wall, breath ragged, shoulders heaving. Your eyes meet. No words, only a glance of shared understanding. We are not meant to win. A moment later, Cato grips your wrist, pulls you toward a camouflaged tunnel entrance behind a fallen pillar. You slip into darkness. Inside, the tunnel is cool and damp, lined with forgotten tools and cobwebs. You move by instinct, guided by the sound of your own heart and the echo of Cato's footfalls. You emerge into the other half of the arena, a battlefield, cracked columns, burning wreckage, oil-slicked stones, and waiting there, more fighters. 3 Rishiri with nets and tridents. A Murmillo with a gold-plumed helmet. They charge. You parry a net, stab low. Cato swings wide, his club breaking bone and helm. The fighting is frantic, rhythmic, savage. No longer a duel, not even war. This is survival. The sun begins to dip. The beasts are dead, the fighters defeated. You and Cato stand bloodied but breathing in the center of the arena. The crowd roars in surprise and approval. You raise your blade, Cato his fist, and in that moment, something shifts. You see the crowd differently, not as judges, but as children watching a deadly game they don't understand. You and Cato have become something else. A myth, a moment, a memory. Back in the dark corridors beneath the seats, Folger is waiting. He says nothing as you pass, only gives you a look that says what words cannot. You weren't meant to make it out of that, but you did. And now, you're legend. Yet in your heart, something unsettles you. It wasn't the beasts, or the traps, or the arrows. It was the silence in Cato's eyes, the knowledge that survival may not always feel like victory. Because here in the Colosseum, the next fight is always waiting, and history forgets the tired. Chapter 12. You wake to the scent of roasting meat mingled with sweat and oil, the thick air of the barracks pressing against your skin like a wet cloth. Outside, Rome stirs. Somewhere beyond the thick walls of the Colosseum, merchants haggle in the markets, and children race through alleyways chasing wooden hoops. But here, the day begins with pain. Every muscle is a battlefield. Bruises have bloomed overnight like black and purple blossoms along your ribs and thighs. A crust of dry blood clings to a scrape on your shoulder. The skin beneath your armor feels raw, your fingers stiff from gripping the sword for too long. You stretch slowly, gritting your teeth against the ache, and sit up on your cot. You survived Saturnalia, the beasts, the chaos, the arrows. You think of Cato, the scarred Gaul who fought beside you, whose silence said more than words could. You haven't seen him since. Perhaps he was granted a reprieve, or perhaps the sands took him after all. The thought lingers like smoke, but the Lanista has other plans. He appears in the corridor like a shadow, arms crossed, lips pressed into that familiar, unreadable line. Ferox, he says, you're needed again. You blink. Already? He nods, gestures to the open ledger he carries, heavy with names and ink stains. His eyes gleam, not with pride, but calculation. You are valuable now. Now Machia, he says. The word stirs something cold in your gut. A sea battle. Fought not on land, but on water. Your eyebrows draw together. On water? He nods again, already turning away. The Emperor wants something different, something grand. And when the Emperor commands, Rome obeys. Historians still debate how real these Naumachia were. Some say they flooded entire amphitheaters, others that special basins were carved just for the show. Some claim lakes outside the city were turned into battlegrounds, with scaled-down ships and entire fleets of prisoners and gladiators forced to mimic real naval warfare. What matters more than the truth is the illusion. The Emperor wants the crowd dazzled. He wants power on display. He wants blood on water. And so you train. Weeks pass in a strange rhythm of rowing and swordplay. You learn to keep your balance on a rocking deck, to swing a gladius while standing ankle-deep in shifting water. You practice forming phalanx-like formations on floating planks. You learn to fall without drowning. Others are not so lucky. A young man named Servius slips during a drill and vanishes beneath the water, his armor dragging him down like a stone. They pull him out too late. The Lanista says nothing. No one does, because tomorrow it could be you. The day of the battle dawns gray and humid, the sky a heavy dome above the city. You're ushered into the staging area, far from the Colosseum now, at a specially prepared basin outside the city walls. The water glistens deceptively calm. On its surface, wooden warships, scaled down but fearsome, fitted with miniature rams, platforms, and shields. You board your assigned vessel, a narrow 2-level galley, manned by a dozen rowers, half prisoners and half-trained fighters like yourself. You grip the wooden rail. Your stomach turns, not from fear, but from the unnatural sway of the boat beneath your feet. The signal is given. Trumpets blare. and the battle begins. The water churns as boats surge forward, oars slicing like wings. On the far side, another vessel approaches, its deck bristling with men, shields raised. Arrows hiss through the air. A spear clatters near your feet. Then the first impact. The ships collide with a deep, hollow crack of wood against wood. You stumble, regain your footing, and draw your gladius. Combat erupts. You fight hand to hand, shoulder to shoulder. The tight quarters offer no room for error. A mist of water and sweat fills the air. Blood spatters the deck. You see a man fall overboard, his armor dragging him into the depths without a sound. Then, a jolt. Your boat heels dangerously to one side, listing under the weight of bodies and imbalance. You're thrown off your feet and into the cold. The water shocks your system like a slap. It rushes into your mouth, your ears. For a moment, there is only silence. Then instinct takes over. You thrash, push upward, breach the surface, gasping. All around, chaos continues. Ships crash and burn. A floating platform catches fire. You grasp a rope, haul yourself back aboard, coughing, soaked to the bone. The deck is slippery. An enemy swings, misses. You drive your blade forward. The hours blur. Victory, like survival, becomes meaningless in the moment. There is only movement. Strike. Parry. Breathe. Eventually, it ends. Your side wins, though you barely understand how. The crowd, yes, there is still a crowd, even here. Cheers from the raised stands. The Emperor himself may be among them, cloaked in purple, sipping wine while you bleed. You do not look up. You sit, slumped against the side of the boat, soaked and shivering. Another day survived, but something has shifted again. This was not combat, not even sport. This was theater. You were an actor in a floating tragedy, a puppet pulled by imperial strings. And yet, you feel the pull again. The strange seduction of the arena, the way the crowd roars your name, the way your heart thunders during the fight, and the silence afterward feels holy. But you know better now. Glory here is not a crown. It is a tide, rising, pulling, then receding, taking pieces of you with it. And in time, the tide always wins. Chapter 13. The sting of salt still lingers on your skin days after the naumachia. Though the blood has been scrubbed away and your clothes no longer reek of stagnant water, it clings, ghost-like, in your memory. You sit on the worn stone steps leading to the training yard, your body folded in quiet protest. Every tendon aches, a soreness birthed not just from the combat, but from the unnatural motion of warships bobbing beneath your feet. Your muscles throb with the memory of balance, of tilting decks and oars soaked in blood. But the Colosseum does not care. Rome does not wait for healing. Already, the next challenge looms. From the shadowed barracks, whispers drift, half truth, half speculation. A new kind of spectacle is coming, a test not just of strength, but of adaptation. Gladiators like you, the cohorts, will be pitted against a rare class, the hoplomachus, a fighter unlike most, heavily armored. Methodical, spear in hand, small shield on his arm, his style is direct and relentless, like the steady advance of a Roman phalanx. Brute force over finesse. You run a whetstone down your gladius as your lanista approaches. He tosses something to you. A shield, larger than the one you're used to, curved, heavier. Time to teach these bronze statues the meaning of speed, he says, with that half-smile he wears when he's gambling on your life. The day of the fight is cruelly hot. The midday sun burns overhead, baking the Colosseum's sand to a pale shimmer. The heat curls the air. Your skin is already damp with sweat before you step into the arena. The gates open, and there he stands. The hoplomachus. He gleams beneath the sun, bronze armor polished to a mirror's edge, reflecting the light like a living god. His helmet bears a high crest. His eyes, hidden in shadow, never leave yours. His spear rises. You raise your gladius. The crowd leans forward, hushed. Then motion. He advances like a tide, measured steps, shield raised, spear stabbing in wide, deliberate arcs. Each thrust is controlled, devastating. You dodge one, then another. The third grazes your shield, sending a jolt through your shoulder. He's not fast, but he doesn't need to be. You circle, staying light on your feet. You dart in and slash. Your blade rings off his leg guard. Too shallow. Again, nothing. His spear comes again, faster this time. You parry, barely. The impact stings your bones. Dust rises in clouds around your feet. The air smells of iron and sweat. You slash at his leg. He shifts. You draw blood, a thin red line just above the greave. He grins behind his helmet. And then, a story comes to mind. Something whispered by an older fighter long ago, his voice like sand through gravel. Some hoplamachi keep a dagger tucked in the folds of their armor. One strike, hidden, fast. You glance at the joint in his elbow, the curve of his waist. Watching, waiting. Your breath grows ragged. Your arms scream with every parry. He lunges. You sidestep, spin. Your blade slides across his shoulder plate. Again, not deep enough. He recovers quickly, spear sweeping low. You jump. Too slow. The shaft catches your shin. You stumble back, grimacing, heart hammering. The duel becomes a slow dance, willed forward by exhaustion and instinct. He's losing speed now. You can feel it. His footwork falters slightly. His shoulders drop just a fraction lower. You fake left. He bites. You pivot, faster than before, shield raise, and land a punishing strike on his right arm. The spear drops from his hand. A second blow forces him down to one knee. He glares up at you, breathing hard, shield limp at his side. The crowd roars. They've seen enough. You step back, blade lowered. He yields. In the shaded passage behind the arena wall, your chest still heaves. Your pulse drums like war horns in your ears. But inside your mind, something else drums louder, clarity. This wasn't just strength. This wasn't speed. It was evolution. You used what you knew, borrowed what you didn't. You adapted. Faster than your opponent. Faster than fear. You passed the old whisper on to another fighter in the barracks that night. About hidden daggers. About silent tricks. About how sometimes survival depends not on power, but on perception. Historians may argue centuries from now about whether gladiators learned from one another, whether styles blended, whether the arena was a stage or a battlefield or something in between. But you know the truth. The Colosseum was a crucible, a place where violence wasn't just shown, but sharpened. And you're becoming its most dangerous weapon, even if you never asked to be. Chapter 14, Victory is a short-lived flame. It warns you for a moment, flickering bright in the roar of the crowd and the adrenaline that drowns out pain. But as always, the light dims, the cheering fades, the sand swallows the blood, and the Colosseum prepares for the next spectacle. You sit alone beneath a flickering oil lamp, cradling your sore arm and watching a slow trail of smoke rise from the brazier. The barracks are quiet tonight, too quiet, the kind of silence that isn't peace, but pause, like the hush before a lion strikes. Your thoughts wander to the Hoplomachus you defeated, to the Naumachia, to the beast fights and mad chaos of Saturnalia. Each fight blurs into the next, a steady rhythm of struggle and survival. But now something has shifted. You've become noticeable, and in the Colosseum attention is a dangerous thing. That's when Varus approaches. He moves with the limp of someone who's seen more battles than you've counted and survived them all, barely. His face is a map of scars and caution, his voice low. There's talk, he murmurs, glancing over his shoulder. Some men don't like how fast you're rising. You stare at him, the ache in your body suddenly sharpened by unease. Rising, you say, I'm surviving. He nods once, that's enough. Enough to make you a threat. The words settle around you like chains. You think of the strange looks in the mess hall, the long stares, the way your name has begun to echo louder in the mouths of trainers, Lannister, and gamblers alike. Rising stars don't rise without casting shadows. You recall old whispers, tales passed between tired gladiators on sleepless nights, stories of poisoned food, of blades filed too thin, of accidents during practice. Sometimes it wasn't the lion in the arena that killed you. Sometimes it was the man sharpening your sword. The days that follow are different. You find yourself watching, listening. Every smile feels too sharp, every friendly gesture wrapped in tension. You test your food, sleep with one eye open. You start to understand that in the world beneath the games, survival depends on more than armor and reflexes. It requires intuition, restraint, a quiet awareness of invisible knives in the dark. When the next fight is announced, the dread returns. A multi-combat event. 5 rounds, no time to rest between them. Each stage designed to test a different skill. Short sword, spear, net, shield, fist. A showcase for the crowd, and a perfect opportunity for sabotage. The day arrives cloaked in heat and tension. The crowd spills into the Colosseum like floodwater. Merchants shout over the roar of the masses, selling honeyed dates and wine in clay cups. Banners flap in the breeze, crimson and gold. You enter the arena beneath the midday sun. Round after round unfolds, each opponent more vicious, more desperate. You move like instinct itself, your body remembering the drills before your mind can catch up. A net grazes your shoulder. A spearhead nicks your thigh. You fight through fatigue, through trembling muscles and dust-choked lungs. Then, it happens. In the fourth round, as you parry a sluggish strike from a Thracian fighter, a figure lunges from the edge of the arena, not part of the match. A rogue. You catch only a glimpse, a hood pulled low, blade gleaming. He strikes silently, with the precision of someone who's done this before. You twist, barely. His dagger grazes your side, tearing cloth, skin, not enough to kill, but close. You react on instinct, dragging your elbow back, then your blade forward. He falls. The crowd doesn't understand. They think it's part of the act. More drama, more blood. The editors don't intervene. The games continue. And so do you. When it ends, when the dust settles and the crowd disperses and the shadows return, you sit in the corridor behind the arena wall, breathing hard. Blood stains your tunic, sweat clings to your brow, and in your chest, something cold has begun to settle. Not fear. Not yet. Something quieter. A knowing. You've seen the arena's teeth before, but now you've seen its mask. Victory is never clean here, and your greatest danger may no longer be your opponent's blade, but what waits behind the next smile, the next cheer, the next invitation from above. Historians would one day argue whether the Colosseum was truly a meritocracy of skill, or a theater of politics dressed in sand and iron, whether champions earned their fame or were chosen for it. You no longer wonder. You understand. This place is a reflection of Rome itself, and in Rome, everyone plays a part. You just have to make sure yours doesn't end too soon. Chapter 15. The air is thick with anticipation. The sun is dipping low behind the marble columns, casting long shadows over the blood-stained sand where you fought, bled, and, against all odds, survived. You feel every bruise and scar, every aching muscle a reminder of the path you've walked. The crowds have come and gone, their cheers fading into memory, but your story remains etched in the dust. Tonight, the Lannister delivers unexpected news. You've been granted a rare honor. A chance to fight not just for survival or glory, but for your freedom. Arudis awaits, the wooden sword symbolizing a gladiator's release from the arena. It feels surreal. After the endless cycle of violence, the bloodshed, the betrayals, the wild hunts, and naval battles, the political intrigue and brutal rivalries, you might escape. But the path is never simple. The final fight is to be against a fellow gladiator whose reputation rivals your own, a Samnite fighter named Cassius, known for brutal efficiency and unyielding strength. The Colosseum is packed with an eager crowd hungry for one last epic contest. The sun sets fully, and torches ignite, casting flickering light over the sand. You face Cassius, swords drawn, eyes locked. The duel begins, a furious exchange of strikes, blocks, and parries. You both move like dancers and warriors, every breath calculated, every step measured. The fight stretches on, each of you pushed to the limits. The crowd is on the edge of their seats, caught between cheers and gasps. In a sudden, decisive moment, you disarm Cassius with a swift maneuver. Instead of striking the final blow, you raise your sword in salute. The editor signals the missio, mercy granted. The crowd erupts. You are handed the rudis. The weight of it in your hands is heavier than any sword you've ever wielded. Walking out of the arena, you are free. But the world beyond the Colosseum is unknown and uncertain. You reflect on everything, the raw brutality, the strange alliances, the moments of terror and triumph. Historians still argue whether freedom was truly attainable for gladiators, or if it was a bittersweet illusion in a society built on blood. You step into the fading light, knowing the arena will always be part of you, but hoping that now survival can mean something more. You wouldn't have survived life as a Roman gladiator without grit, cunning, and a bit of luck. But as you leave that world behind, the greatest battle lies ahead, living free. The arena's roar fades gently into the night, and you feel the weight of dust settling, soft as a whisper against your skin. Close your eyes now, let your breath slow. Imagine the cool evening breeze brushing over ancient stone, the distant hum of a city asleep under a star-studded sky. The struggle, the fight, the blood, it all fades into the past, replaced by the quiet promise of rest. Tomorrow is new, a fresh dawn beyond the Colosseum's shadow, and you, dear listener, are safe. Rest easy, knowing you've walked through history's fiercest battles and come out the other side. Let the night cradle you softly now. Sweet dreams.